Hey, I'm Alex Jebailey of CEOGaming and DreamHack Fighting Games, and you are watching whatever the show I just recorded a podcast for.
If you are a fan of fighting games, you've been a part of the FGC in any possible way, whether as a competitor, someone who just watches these videos of the Smash Brothers tournaments and Street Fighter, Tekken, all that great stuff, Marvel vs. Capcom, we have on a guest today, many of you know as Jebailey. Or Jebaited, which I guess I'm ruining here now because I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and I kind of did right here. But I won't in the interview, and I didn't. Alex Jebailey, the, I guess, founder of CEOGaming, which is a competitive tournament organization for fighting games, but has expanded to more things. He has been involved in the fighting community as a competitor himself and went on to start this and is one of the big faces and names of the fighting game community. We have a great chat talking about kind of the state of the gaming community today, everything he's doing with CEO and the things that he hopes to see with other, organizations and tournaments and competitions. It was really a fun revisiting of everything that I loved. I grew up playing Super Smash Brothers Melee competitively. I talk about it a little bit in the interview, but I got to see some of these pro players growing up, and I really wish I could have been a fighting game competitor. I've always been competitive. I think the only prospect for me doing competitive gaming at this point right now is Magic the Gathering, because it's something I can kind of control in my own slow time, and especially the card games. There's a little bit of a pay-to-win aspect of it, and now that I'm a big boy and I got big boy money, I can buy some of those cards I never could when I was a kid. So, really great, fantastic conversation with Alex today. It was a guest that we're really, I'm excited to bring on because it's something different. If you're interested in being a part of these organizations that are doing these competitions, or just from an entrepreneurial mindset, or if you're just a fan of fighting games, this was just a really fun conversation to have. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. You can do that right now if you're on YouTube or Spotify. Hit the follow button, all that great stuff. The ding for the alerts. We post videos every week. All that great stuff. Really appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for a fantastic episode with Alex Jebailey. Dude, it has got to be insane right now. I mean, how far out? Registrations are opening this month?
January 29th is what I'm aiming for, so just depends on my mood.
God, so,
yep.
But so you were saying, so you've been doing a lot of editing right now, and this is for stuff for CEO, or is this for personal stuff? Is this
personal YouTube? I've been using the CEO channel. It has about 40,000 subs.
Yeah.
And just doing kind of arcade unboxings, reviews, stuff like that. And because I love watching tech shit, man. I just wish I started sooner before as soon as COVID started, should have waited a few months before I got a dog and just went balls to the wall with content creation. But honestly, that was the greatest 1 year vacation of my life, not doing shit. So I kind of took the time to just do nothing. And now I regret it, but yeah.
I think there's got to be a healthy balance, because at some point you would probably said, man, I really need a year vacation. And then that would have been, at one point or another, I took a lot of time off too, but you can only beat yourself up so much about it. But
exactly. Yeah, I don't think about the past much anymore, so.
There you go. Only looking forward. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on here, by the way. I'm super excited to chat about a ton of stuff. I've been a huge fan of, I grew up, a bit about me, I grew up in the fighting game community. I was a huge Smash Melee player. I grew up in Jersey, just to give you a little bit of context.
You said Smash, but yeah.
So that's how I grew up in terms of my fighting game history and everything like that. And I've just loved everything you've done with CEO, from the aesthetic to it just being one of those events that I try to throw on every time I can get the stream of what is happening there, because it's such a unique, personable, fun event that it's just unlike anything else, where I really feel like there is an element of fan love that is put into this event every year. And I would love to just know kind of what was the inspiration for you to even start an organization like this and eventually putting on these events, and obviously you're doing Dreamland, everything else. Where did the inception for all of this to say, I love all this, I want to be a person who is putting on these events?
Yep. So you already started officially, right? Oh,
yeah, we're recording, dude. We're deep.
Cut that. Hold on. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so I thank you for all the kind words. I mean, you can ask anybody who goes to my events. I'm a bigger fan than everybody combined of everything the event space and gaming and all that. But, I was just a competitor growing up, fighting games. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, and I would just go to the arcades with them as a kid and just kind of picked it up really quickly. My brothers would play, old school Street Fighter 2. I even remember seeing the Street Fighter 1 machine with the 2 big giant buttons. And just over the years, just kind of grew, played video games. Instead of I was very antisocial as a kid. I was a very shy nerd. I got into music, band. I love the drums and all that. But then once I discovered video games, just everything changed there. And then I even used to have some artistic ability. I was drawing a lot as a kid and growing up. And then once video games came in, just played that. But, fast forwarding just over the years, just played so many video games growing up. And I just learned how to not give into any kind of pressure competitively with my older brothers. And, the first official tournament I ever hosted was when I was 13 years old, when Super Street Fighter 2 New Challengers on Super Nintendo had come out. And it was my 13th birthday, and they had a tournament mode where you could set 8 players up automatically, and then everyone 2 people sit down, take over the controllers, play, move on. And I was like hosting them and winning them all against all my cousins and brothers and stuff. And we'd fill it up with 8 people every single time. So I kind of got into that of like just having good events. And I come from a Middle Eastern background. My parents are both Lebanese, and my mom is just an incredible host of, parties, get-togethers, cooking for huge feasts. So it was a natural, innate thing that came from my family. And my second brother, hosts charity events every year here in Orlando, a really big charity party. So just growing up, we were always that household that would have friends over. When there was wrestling pay-per-views as kids in the 90s, we would invite all our friends to come watch it.
Oh, yeah.
So my parents were very supportive of meeting people, having a good time with friends, but also focusing on work. And, I started working at like 12 years old for my dad at his hotel back in the day. And just video games kind of stuck with me. The story I like to tell over and over again is I actually won the first official Blockbuster video game challenge that Dr. Disrespect claims to have won. I actually have the real trophy up in my office. So I'm in the history books as the first Super Nintendo winner ever. Second year, I made it to the finals again in 94. But because I had to go to Lebanon with my family, I couldn't go. And I was crying like a baby. And that's where my dad told me, you can't win everything, son. And that's where I'm like, like hell, I can't. So I was very upset about that. But I was 12 years old at the second year, but I had won that. And that's where I kind of learned to just compete and go to tournaments at 11 years old. And the final game was Magic Johnson Slam Dunk Basketball. And it was just fun back then for me that I was scared as a kid. But when I started winning, I was like, I can kind of see things differently than other people. And if you ever watch the original movie, The Wizard, I am that little kid. Like that story is like spot on how I grew up with my brothers and stuff. And, so just over the years, just huge gamer. Then college comes around. I was a computer engineering major, and I went to the University of Central Florida. And that's where I kind of was playing more DDR and dance games from 1999, 2000 when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I was playing everything at the time. I wasn't focused on fighting games. But growing up, I used to go to arcades, and I would become friends with the people that ran those arcades, and they would give me free tokens to play Mortal Kombat 2, 3, Street Fighter as they came out, because people couldn't beat me. And they would be like, hey, if nobody can beat him, they're going to spend more money. So I was like making money for everybody else and having fun at the same time. So I just got lucky being an arcade baby. I think that gives a lot of the FGC guys you see today an innate advantage in competition, because we had to pay 50 cents a dollar to play. And if you lost, you had to go wait an hour to play again. So you didn't want to lose. So I grew up that way. I learned the hard way. I played with a lot of older people and just got naturally good. And I hustled. I would sell Mortal Kombat codes because my oldest brother had access to the internet and AOL and Prodigy.net. This is how I'm saying my age right here. And I would go online, get them from all the new Usernet stuff like that, and use my sister's word processor that had 1 megabit of memory, and just from scratch type the codes out, print them, go to the arcade, sell them for like $5-10, and that's how I'd keep playing games.
Wow.
So that kind of is what created me into the monster I think I am today in terms of competing, but also running stuff. So college comes around, and the student union had an arcade cabinet right behind me, the light up marquee up there you see from Image guys, and they had a Capcom vs. SNK2 machine. I had not really played it that much, but a year prior, I had a gift certificate. And, I remember every detail. I had a gift certificate to FYE for your entertainment for like $50 to go buy a game for PlayStation 2 at the time. And I saw CVS 2 on the shelf, and I go, I haven't played Street Fighter in a few years, right? I moved on to college and all that. Let me buy this. Had no idea about the competitive scene or the FGC officially then. And I had bought it. I went home, played with like the worst characters in the game at the time before I discovered who was actually good. King from the King of Fighters game. I was like, she has a double fireball. Nobody can block 2 fireball. That's how I was casual I was. And then went to college. They had that machine, started playing with everybody, started meeting all my FGC friends, traveling to events, had a couple mentors that are old school FGC guys that taught me how to play at a high level. And then just kind of did that. And then I graduated college. I took a break. I focused on work and my career, family business for a few years. And that's when it was like we call it the dark ages of FGC, when Marvel 2 had hit its course with EVO or B4 at the time, and Super Turbo. Mortal Kombat wasn't as big as the Street Fighter games, but Marvel vs. Capcom 2, CVS 2, and Third Strike were the big boys then. And then once those kind of died out and the arcades kind of faltered into dance games, rhythm games, and all that, Street Fighter 4 comes out. GameStop, and I attribute a lot of the success of Street Fighter 4 to the GameStop tournament they did at all the stores. Then you had like 3 rounds of qualifying. And the store I went to, I sucked at because they made us use the Xbox controllers, and player 2 was like broken. And people were complaining like, sorry, those are the rules. Like, whatever, dude. And that was one of those things where at that moment I go, if I ever run a tournament, I will always do it right. I hate this bullshit, so to speak. What's your rating on the show? Can I curse?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Oh, beautiful. Anyway, I don't like to curse. That's for people that don't have anything smart to say. But so they had that tournament. That's where I met a lot of guys I hadn't seen years prior. And the only way of conversating in the FGC was usually the Shuriken.com forums. And then, still other online forums, IRC, AIM, all that stuff before there was Facebook, before there was YouTube, before all that. So we had an Atlantic South forum, and literally when Street Fighter 4 came out, all of us saw each other at GameStop. And we're like, dude, this game is huge. Let's start hosting casuals, locals, and stuff. And this is 2008-9. The first CO was 2010. But at that point, we were all playing Street Fighter 4. We were addicted. I remember the first stick I bought was a Hyper Street Fighter 2 stick for Xbox Live Arcade. Somewhere it's a Hori, original Hori somewhere. And after the Capcom, that one, I went to a local tournament I saw. It's called Florida Gaming. Didn't know anybody there. I went with my friends. I ended up winning it. And Street Fighter 4, and there was about like 30 players at the time, 32 players, which was small time but big. That was all we knew about each other. And his name was Todd. He's not around in the industry anymore. And he's like, hey, we want to do this again. You seem to like know everybody. Everyone like knows you by name. Would you want to be a part of our event? They were hosting Halo, Melee, and Street Fighter 4 the next time. So I hosted, I go, yeah, let me do it my way. Had no equipment. We did not have what we and Evo and Combo Breaker and all the major FGC events used to, gaming generations, 300 PlayStation 4 Pros, monitors, all that stuff. And I had like 2 Xbox 360s. I had to ask other people for monitors, and it was like each monitor was a completely different kind of monitor from the community. And we had 90 entrants at the first one I did. I was like, dude, this is fun again, right? But nobody else was running tournaments in Florida except like me in Orlando and a couple of people that had kind of moved on right before I came back into the scene. And I was like, if nobody's going to run it, I'm going to run it so I can play in it, right? So that's how I kind of got good and I used to have locals in this house before I got all this stuff behind me, when I first moved in here. About 60 people would be in my house playing Street Fighter 4 across like 10 cat monitors, tables. It was insane at the time. And the scene kind of just grew itself. But in Florida, we were always known as, I wouldn't say black sheep, but we didn't have the big tournaments like Las Vegas or California did, Texas, Chinatown, New York, where Justin Wong originated from and stuff. So I was kind of building the scene up with all my friends. And that's when 2010 comes along with the first CEO, which I was not planning to be an organizer. I never officially wanted to be an organizer. I just did it for the fun, the local stuff. It wasn't like a career path or anything like that. I just naturally fell into it. And I was a total cocky son of a bitch back in the early days, man. Like I've learned and matured so much since the original Street Fighter 4 days. But I was running the tournaments. We had the forums. We were communicating. Lots of trash talk. Lots of funny times. And a guy out of nowhere, his name was Manny. It's a whole long story. But in short, he comes around like, hey, I want to host a gaming event. We want to do Street Fighter. We want to do like a $5,000 prize pool. He talked a big game. I knew it was real at the time, and it was a lot of the stuff. And then just as it got closer, things were falling apart. I was his liaison, so to speak. So everyone trusted me. But, I'm like, guys, I don't think this is happening, yada, yada. And then he just comes out right with I have to cancel this. Kind of runs off with a lot of people's money. Not millions of dollars or anything, but a decent amount to piss everybody off. And he cancels it 3 weeks before it's officially supposed to happen in Orlando. And we're just in the chat. And again, no intentions of running an event. And it just kind of slowly built up. Like, guys, I have nothing. I didn't know the venue he was using or the contract stuff. And then somebody from the Smash community, his name was Jonathan Graybeal. Not so much around anymore. He runs the Pound series that VGBC now runs. He's like, hey, I found a venue. I don't have the money. I'm like, well, neither do I. Well, if we can get this venue, we can kind of put something together within 3 weeks. I'll run Smash. You do fighting games. And at the time, it was Street Fighter 4, Blaze Blue, Continuum, I forget the name, Chrono Phantasm, Tekken 6 at the time. This is 2010. So not a lot of fighting games. Like, you go to an event now, we have 30 different tournaments, right?
Yeah.
And in 2010, I was like, all right, whatever. I actually had to ask my father, like, hey, can I borrow like $2,000 to rent this venue? And it was the Central Florida Fairgrounds. Total shitbox. The AC broke day 2, all that. But like, hey, we're going to do this tournament. The name before I took over was called Game, Gamme. And we had a whole discussion, the forum, the post is still on the internet of like, let's call it Game Over, Game On, Continue, all that stuff. And then I was just going to bed one night. I'm like, you know what? The community's putting this together. It's a huge effort. We're in Orlando. And that's when the CEO name was just born to me. I didn't ask anybody else's advice, but then I go, hey guys, what do you think of this name? And I put it in the chat and it just was like, that's the name. That's it, And again, this was a one-time thing, was not planning to do this consistently. We do the event, about 300 people. It's a success of what can be in 3 weeks. I had another gaming convention called EXPCon at the time, an anime con. He had like 10 Xboxes and old monitors, and he brought those. And I remember that event because, my iPhone got stolen, the very first one, during one of my matches. I'll never forget it. And I ended up like getting a new phone the next day because I was like, without my phone, how can I run this event and keep in touch with everybody? And we ran the event. I think I got like 20th place because I ended up losing after losing that. And the guys who beat me have never beat me since. And one guy called his mom. I beat Jebailey because at the time I was always like guaranteed top 3 in these tournaments for Street Fighter 4. But it was a lot of fun. We have pictures. We did stream it. We had about 1,000 viewers that year. And, it was just a good time for the community. No interest in doing this anything ever again, right? And then at the end, it was like, you know what, dude? This was 300 people. This could be special. What if I have an entire year to do something again following June? Let me see what I can do. So I called a lot of contacts in the anime scene with hotels, and that's where I got the Wyndham, which I've used, like 20 times now between Otaku, Dreamland, and CEO. And at that time, I was like, I'm going to get a venue that we can grow into and see what happens, right? And take a huge risk, which with hotel contracts, that's how I wouldn't say make our money, but that's how we don't lose our ass on the space that we get. So it's like, if you can't book 300 room nights, we can't give you this 20,000 square foot ballroom. I'm like, let's do it. And I remember the first year I didn't hit that quota. And if you don't hit the quota, you pay the difference yourself. I hit that quota a day before the event. They allowed me to keep booking stuff. So I was like, all right, once that was booked at the time. And at that time, now events are $100 for a weekend badge, right? Yeah. Back then I was charged, if you bought a hotel room, I gave you a free badge into the tournament itself. Just so I was kind of a pioneer in how I marketed the event differently than other people in the FGC and got people's attention. I kind of had my own star power from competing and going to the final rounds in Atlanta and Evo for my first time in 2009. So I kind of used my playing abilities and my connections and friendships to build it. So the second year, 2011, that's when, and I had personally set my own goals each event. It was never about make as much money as possible. It was do a successful event, make sure everyone else is happy. The rest will come as a bonus. That's kind of been my philosophy. Now, surviving COVID era, giving 5,000 plus refunds after all the cancellations, like, all right, I can't keep doing this for 20 years without, running it properly as a business. And now things are kind of coming back with sponsorships and all that. But just doing it then was just all about the fun and the community. And I grew a love for fighting games and competing. And slowly over the years, I stopped competing once the Pro Tours started coming in because I wasn't allowed to. But first couple years as CEO, I would set a goal. My first year was just have a fun event. Second year was book this hotel up and get a Japanese name or two, like a Daigo at the time. And we had gotten Gamerby and Tokido, which was such a huge deal to me at the time. And I'll never forget the first 3-4 years as CEO, I would take my Japanese Japanese guests or friends to like Disney World on Monday after the event was done, and then pass out for a week. Now it's like there's thousands of people. I don't have time for anybody, you know.
It's like
even
your wedding.
myself. As soon as the event's done, I make sure all the paperwork's done, everyone's paid, get all the stuff done for whatever I need to, and then go get ready for the next damn event, right? So now it's just it's total change since the early days. But that pretty much, you know, for your audience, that is the history of kind of CEO and how to create it. And you know, over the years, I just networked. That's the number one advice I give everyone: just network. Again, I made a lot of mistakes in terms of using my name to, you know, say negative things about other events that I wanted to get better and it wasn't helpful, yada, yada. Now it's different. I kind of pioneered the Twitter backlashes of the world, you know, but now I don't do that anymore. I'm all about positivity and growing. And I just learned so much going to other events outside of my own. Because again, I was a competitor in fighting games versus card games, you know, TCGs, Dance Dance Revolution. I have a machine here in my house, Extreme Machine. And, you know, so I just played everything I could, because I liked going to other events, seeing how they would run stuff, and that kind of created the philosophy behind make your event unique, you know, set a goal every year. Now the goal is just to, you know, come back to prominence and be, you know, top 3 biggest event in the world for fighting games and diversity.
Wow. It just sounds like all of that came out of so much love for the genre and the community and everything, and it really didn't seem like it almost sounds like the success came out of it not being something that you had planned on doing. It's just like, I love this. I want to do this for the people around me. It didn't start off as a business venture. It started off as kind of a labor of love and kind of something you wanted to partake in, where you see a lot of people who get into these businesses, creating events, whatever it is, and they're immediately only looking for monetization. Like you said, though, very important to be able to monetize and create sustainability as you go forward. If you want to keep doing these things at a high level, and especially with COVID, it sounds like that was pretty insane of a time to be running an event. I'm curious, what is the next phase of these conventions and things? You were talking about sponsorship, but how was it really kind of a painful thing to experience the COVID hit for these conventions and stuff? And is there kind of a new plan of attack now for you or for other conventions going forward to keeping this kind of momentum alive? Because I have to assume the only thing that really existed for about 2.5 years was online play for most of these games, right? So what is kind of the strategy now coming out of COVID?
Yeah, I mean, the strategy in the beginning was like, my God, then things can't be shut down for this long, right? And having to cancel stuff. And so I was actually the last major offline event as Disney World and the world was shutting down March of 2020. And that was probably the worst week of my life, having to deal with that, go through that. And I wanted to cancel so bad, but the hotel's like, we're open for business. If you cancel, you're bankrupt, you know, you're going to owe a lot of money. And I don't like that feeling. So I let everyone know. I gave refunds to anybody who didn't want to show up. And at the time, there was 10 cases of COVID in all of like America, right? Yeah. And everyone just, the world was changing, obviously. And, you know, I learned a lot doing that event. And then I was the first one back in December 2021, where we instantly sold out CEO when the tickets went on sale, 4,000 tickets in less than 20 hours, which was unheard of. And for lots of reasons, right? But had learned, you know, obviously the COVID policies and vaccinations and all, and just different sets of rules. You know, when you run events every year, there's something that you need to be prepared for the worst, and nobody was prepared for COVID in the beginning. Yeah. Now you kind of have an idea, you know, luckily it still exists, but it's kind of weighing down. Everyone's been catching something, but not as serious as in the beginning with vaccinations and everything. And I was always the first one to get vaccinated the moment I get a chance to be like, hey guys, look, I got it. I'm fine. You know, take care of your health and kind of get back to things. But a lot of companies basically shuttered their business, no interest in being a part of the offline experience. And luckily, so many FGC and fighting games developers learned the importance of good netcode and online. So that kept us going through everything, right? And then last year, putting CEO back together after being the first event dealing with those COVID protocols, it got easy. It really did. Just making sure the rules for your event are clear. Everyone knows and understands. You're always going to get people like, I don't like that. Then, you know, just be like, sorry, then, you know, come back next year. The event will still be around, stuff like that. So I learned how to grow the thickest skin on earth after the shit I had to read, you know, coming back with the whole split of the country and social media and the Trump errors, I like to call it. You know, and I always stay out of politics the best I can. I've been involved with it on a local level, just for the betterment of my attendees, right, where I can possibly. But after that, it's like, you know, just focus on the events. So coming out of it, a lot of sponsors are more than ready to come back now that all the big events have happened again. You know, the PAXs are back, the Dream Hacks that I also work for are back, and things are honestly still kind of slowly returning to normal. But a lot of things I've learned that are helpful to others is the communication. I've always been transparent, and I think that's what grew CEO as fast as it did. It used to be like after the third year was compared on the same level as Evo. You know, like, hey, this is the next big event that's professionally run like an Evo. And that was all about, you know, just communicating, being transparent. Like, guys, look, I'm showing you everything that's going into this event because I love to, and I like helping other people and letting them learn. So now you got to be more transparent than ever. There are downsides to being the brand of your own event. Like me, everyone knows Jebailey, Jebaited, all that stuff. I like it because I like pressure. I've dealt with so much pressure over the years, you know, and what I've done, and I don't like to quit. You know, a side story, when I did the whole pro wrestling stuff and I tore my Achilles tendon and still did a match with, you know, and postponed the surgery. I was a freaking idiot looking back, right? I should not have been allowed to do that, but I did it. But you know, you kind of had to grow thick skin throughout the pandemic and running events and seeing everyone have their opinions and stuff. And now coming out of it, I think everyone is nicer to each other than pre-COVID in a way that they just want to be around each other and be happy. So it's made it very easy to communicate and have more people interested in your events more than ever. But now everything's back too fast. There's oversaturation yet again, not just fighting game community, but across the gaming, you know, everything. And you just have to learn to put yourself out there and let people know that you exist, promotion anywhere, which way you can. And that's kind of what grew CEO into what it is today. And now, again, I've been working on like sponsorship decks to send out to all the sponsors, and pricing across the board's kind of gone up for running the events, hotel contracts, food, travel. So we're still in a phase where I hope a recession comes so everything gets cheap again. But you know, so it's just different times. And just learning to communicate and be prepared the best you can is how you put on good events.
Yeah, that's so important right now for people to understand what's going on and everything. Actually, something you mentioned is the community in a way. A lot of the fighting games started out in these game stores, and a lot of them had to close down, or there was, you know, a lack of people going to these stores, you know, building a community within a lot of these arcades and these game shops. What do you think the future of the fighting game community, do you think that it exists online, or where do you think the grassroots kind of community keeps its resilience or builds a new audience now that it's such an online thing and you're not necessarily sitting next to the opponent you're playing in a store and you're not meeting the people around you and forming that kind of competitiveness on a very face-to-face personal level? How do you think that exists going forward for such kind of what was important for this style of gaming?
Yeah, I mean, now there's consistent online events from my friend Tong, Tampa Never Sleeps, Bum and Dragon Ball, and all these different communities. Like, if you didn't hone in your content creation through the pandemic and with online, I think you're already behind everything, whether it's online or offline. Yeah. Fortunately, with Street Fighter 6 on the horizon and the game looking really good to every player after a Street Fighter 5 era of, you know, mixed reactions and stuff, I think both are going to exist. You know, and there's going to be consistent online events. The beauty about offline events is you plan for it, you know you're going. An online event can happen anytime. You know, you don't have venue expenses, you don't have all that, so you can easily do both. You just got to learn to turn that into highlight reels and YouTube footage, and you know, keeping people consistent and loyal. And it's more of a loyalty thing. There's people that go to CEO that have not been to an Evo or a Combo Breaker because they haven't experienced those events to understand how good they are as well. But it's like, I live in Florida, or I just trust that Alex Jebailey and CEO is going to be a good event. I'm just going to go there every year, and that's where my money goes to, right? And we live in a world where you can't go to every single event. And pre-COVID, everyone was going to every single event, especially with the Pro Tour support and all that. And as we get back to seeing where the developers come with like the Capcom Pro Tour, Tekken World Tour, and if they'll be as big as they were before, because they created their own online series and qualifiers and events without the CEOs and the combo breakers and all that. So that's kind of changed. We got to see where that goes in the next couple of years again, if it goes back to how it was, because I was one of the first ever events on the Capcom Fighter stream, which is one of the biggest streams now. You know, and the teams change, times change, people's jobs change. So Both are going to exist. I think we're going to see a lot of cool like qualifiers online to get people to travel to events, because there's some kid that's never been able to afford going to a trip, but he's kicking everyone's ass online. And we saw a bit of that when Cross Tekken first came out. Kuma, I think his name was, and he got like, top 8 and Cross Tekken at the first Capcom Pro Tour. And he was an online warrior, as we called it. And with Street Fighter 6, I think that's when the next generation comes in. Tekken 8, Street Fighter 5, PlayStation 5 will start being the system of choice, most likely. There's space for everything. Events that have already been established pre-COVID are going to survive as long as the people behind them still want to keep doing it. And it is hard. I really think it is a challenge for anyone new in the space to kind of build an event off the ground outside of the Smash community. Lots of major Smash events for just Smash have grown over the last couple years, and people are like, I don't need to go to CEO. I can go to this event that's dedicated to Smash, and that's totally fine. And so we're going to see a lot of new people pop up when Street Fighter 6 comes out. And one thing I didn't mention earlier, the years of my experiences, like you said, people come into esports going, hey, easy money. It's not. And I've had so many people email me like, hey, we want to do our first event. We want it to be huge, like a CEO. I'm like, stop right there. It's not going to happen your first time. Don't care how much money you have. If you don't build trust and loyalty first, your event's not going to succeed long term. And that's kind of where we've built up what we have and the trust. And, as long as I don't do anything to get me in trouble on Twitter, I'll be okay. So
Twitter, it can be a danger. It's with great power comes great responsibility.
So I try not to tweet as much as I used to. So I think we're going to be fine. I think Street Fighter 6 is going to be huge for online. I've been in the betas, had so much fun literally going into the virtual cabinet, and other games like Guilty Gear have done the lobbies. But it felt real. The 3D models of the characters, everyone standing around a cab, seeing them like do motions over it, felt really good. And I got to do it with some of my wrestling buddies, and it felt really good for an online experience. So I hope they continue that and it just grows. What we've noticed with PlayStation having their own tournament series, it's so easy for people not to go anywhere and just sit at home and go on the store and go, oh, there's a tournament for this game I own. Let me just enter it, and follow the rules and all that. So, but nothing will ever beat the offline experience. And one thing I tell people, if you look back at the last 3 years of online tournaments, can you name one memorable match or finals?
I cannot.
You can't. I can, but I can't. It's just like when you think of Evo, you think of Daigo and Punko and these matches that the crowd was insane for. Online, the moment that tournament's done, yeah, you won. Okay, what's the, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think offline is necessary, and we're going to see some huge growth with Street Fighter 6 like we do with 4. And I think what happened was, me as a player looking in and an organizer, Street Fighter 4 was built with love and the community in mind to bring back that era of fighting games in the 90s. Street Fighter 5 was built with esports in mind and to capitalize on esports and the pro tours and all that, and the top players, getting the recognition they deserve. Now Street Fighter 6, you can tell it's all about love now and correcting every mistake and learning. And, we're going to see some cool stuff that I think is going to set the fighting game genre forward.
Yeah, really well said. And I think that's a great explanation of it. I mean, this Street Fighter 6, it looks freaking fantastic. I'm excited to get my ass whipped in it because I'm not good at Street Fighter. I was never a good Street Fighter player. But you were talking about too, like your love for wrestling and how it's so integrated into what you do to CEO. Is that more of like how you view, like, do you see kind of a parallel between the fighting games and the fighting game community with kind of pro wrestling, or is this and that's why you've had it put the things in the rings, you have the belts as the award, and you have people coming down doing their entrances? Like, is it more of an homage, or do you see like a parallel between how fans and people who are participating in these tournaments are? Is it a love letter, or is it kind of you see them as similar businesses?
Definitely similar in every way. When I first started doing the CEO theme in 2012, and we got the wrestling ring as a thing, it's because, yes, I was a wrestling fan growing up. Yeah. And this is before I got entwined in the backstage of the wrestling world with AEW when they started. And I just did it because a lot of us were 90s arcade babies that were also home during the Monday Night Wars with Nitro and Raw, and everyone could relate to it. That was in the fighting game community. And they're both almost the same thing. Two people are fighting it out with each other. One man stands every time, just like in wrestling. Now wrestlings have continuous storylines, you know what to follow. And that's what a lot of the fighting game communities tried to mimic over the years. And that's why like 2012, 13, I felt like we were doing something really cool that was entertaining and people were remembering the entrances at CEO and the whole wrestling aesthetic. And I never thought it would turn into like a full blown show until after I had met Kenny Omega in the industry. And, it was just a huge crossover. And then when I had moved CEO from Orlando into a much bigger venue, about 6 times the size with an arena, the first time was like, I just want to have an arena kind of like Evo. Evo's always been a huge inspiration to me in their growth, being the biggest event in the world. And it's just like, CEO can be that on the East Coast. We need more Evos out there. We need more consistently huge events where developers have more reasons to promote fighting games, can support more events, and just kind of spread the word of what makes our community so special. And the wrestling side of it, like when I had become friends with Kenny Omega in real life, was just through fighting games. Sent a DM over to some friends that were connected, like, hey, I'd love to talk to Kenny. And Kenny was like, I'm a huge fan of CEO and the wrestling entrances, and I don't have time to go to these events because I'm in Japan. But it's like, CEO is an event I would feel comfortable at as a celebrity. You didn't say it like that, but as a celebrity that can go and play fighting games that I love. So that crossover was just so natural. It was a true friendship from the get-go. We were on the same page about a lot of cool ideas. And then the first year was all about, it was in Orlando before I had the arena of like, hey, let's do something cool with WWE's Austin, Xavier Woods, super cool personal friend of mine as well. And I had felt like 10 years prior, if I had the knowledge I have now about the wrestling industry, I probably would have tried to be a real pro wrestler and actually get genuine training. It is not easy, obviously. And when I wrestled a couple matches, like I did not have the prep time that I should have had, but I did the best I could with the means. And luckily being 6'2", 250, you kind of have, there's some potential there, but I'm getting to an age where no, I'm not going to hurt myself anymore. But so the crossovers between fighting games, and there's so many fighting games with stages that are in wrestling rings or boxing rings, and it just became natural. And then, 1 year Mortal Kombat made a stage that looked like CEO, and all these crossovers into the industry. And that's when, like, the first couple years of CEO, and I tell this to a lot of up-and-coming event runners, don't worry about sponsorships your first or second year. You need to create something that you can prove is of value and grow from there. Like the first sponsor I ever had was the second year was NOS energy drink for like $500 back then. And I was like, oh my God, $500 is huge. I still have the invoice saved in somewhere private. And, and so it was like, you have to grow something first to kind of turn into that. And then just luckily, it's all about who you know in this world really is, and networking and not burning bridges. And through Kenny Omega and just the ideas we had passed through each other, that's where the real wrestling came into fruition with New Japan. And, as a personal friend and also still a wrestling fan more than ever, seeing him go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling this past weekend for Wrestle Kingdom. I was actually in Japan for his last match at that company before AEW started, and to see him happy, I can tell a real smile from Kenny, and just seeing him kick ass and doing and nobody can do it better than him. His crossovers, he did the Sephiroth entrance.
I saw that. That was amazing.
One-winged angel. I get chills watching it because I knew, and I'm like, dude, you nailed the timing of when he does the wing and everything. And I know how happy he was to get that off in Square Enix, and he's got a great team behind the scenes, agency that helps with all his gaming connections. And he's just a huge fan, man. And he honestly, again, this re-inspired me. Knowing his recovery from his injuries helped me on a personal level work out even harder this year and like see him come back, and kick ass more than ever. He's never looked better.
Yeah.
But those crossovers, that one connection is what grew C into what it is now with the wrestling. And when we had done the event, we both looked at each other and goes, your world loves fighting games. My world loves wrestling. Let's bring them both together. And then boom, we had the When Worlds Collide, the first show, and then the AEW thing. Like pre-COVID, those 2 years were probably the 2 best years of my professional career, to be able to go into a new industry and meet people and have Chris Jericho go, hey, Alex, call me on a first name basis and know me, and all these people, and just being backstage with Jim Ross and all that just was really happy for me. Obviously, I never tried to get a full-time job with them because I'm doing my own thing and I work at DreamHack and I'm very happy, but I would have given it all up to be a part of that kind of team and just seeing everything that had started and be there. And I'm more loyal to Kenny than any company, to be honest with you, and just happy to see him back at it. and over New Japan and just see what the future holds. But, you know, it was amazing to have that crossover. And, you know, some of my favorite tweets when I did the crossover with AEW is like seeing people see a picture of me and Tony Khan, the billionaire. Why is Jebailey smiling with it? In what world is he hanging out with a billion? You know what I mean? And it was all about, it was never about the money to me. AEW was just more about the fandom and all the people, Evil Uno, Adam Cole, all huge gaming fans, and seeing those crossovers, AEW games and all. I feel like I was a part of a lot of those crossovers in the beginning, and now I'm just happy everyone is happy doing what they're doing right now, and I want everyone to succeed even more than ever coming back out of it.
Heck yeah. You know, it's such an interesting, in the same way that wrestling exists, it kind of survives and thrives off of personalities and people who almost become their own pieces of icons within, you know, the industry. This is kind of a two-parter in a way. How important and how hard is it to manage, you know, having people in an industry and in a community where kind of trash talk and rivalries are so rampant, and it's like almost an integral part to the style of gaming that fighting games bring. How important is it? And also, like, where is that line to where, like, how do you manage something being, you know, is this just becoming toxic? Is this now helping? Because I always thought as an Overwatch fan, the thing that I never I never was able to invest in was like personal players. Like there wasn't enough of like, I'm rooting for this team because of these people. It was always just like, oh, okay, I like this team because I'm from New York, you know, or I like London. And there was never like that personal person I was rooting for. So I always felt like it was so integral to what Overwatch kind of needed. And you see this in fighting games, you root for people. But where is that line between these people who are, you know, icons in their own rights and also kind of like the competitiveness and trash talk? Like, where does that kind of line exist in terms of what is good and what is bad for an industry and an organization?
Man, if more people's parents were on their social media, it'd all be shut down. No, you know, that's what I say. I mean, you see people's true personalities on social media, I think. A lot of us are introverts in the gaming industry on the outside, even like, you know, not to say too much about Kenny, but he's an introvert. He lived with me for a few months when he moved from Japan to America, and we just had fun gaming while looking through Twitter and seeing the stuff people say about it. And, you know, every day I wake up on Twitter, or I go to check Twitter and to do stuff, Kenny Omega's trending on my feed. FGC's trending. I'm like, oh boy, what happened now? Yeah. You know, so... But I mean, again, I think social media has made things a lot better. There's more positives than the negatives. Yeah. And I always tell people, right, like, I'm happy that we're open and we get the bad out as soon as we can. But it's like, it's just Twitter is where everything happens or goes down now, at a point where it's like, do you see anybody getting canceled on Instagram comments? Never. It's always like a Twitter post that changes everything. Twitter, right? It's not a Facebook post. Yeah. It's not an Instagram post, you know.
So be toxic on Instagram is basically the
no, don't be toxic anywhere, because one day we're going to look back and go, was I really that big of a douche? Yeah. But some of us don't realize that, right? I used to make snarky comments towards other events on Twitter and take jabs, and now you just get older and you just go, man, it's not even worth it. Yeah. Or you can complain about something, and there's things that should be complained about to help businesses grow and get better. But there's ways of going about it, and I think a lot of people need training in that don't get it in this industry, or how to do social media, or brand management, or like none of us get that. It's still a wild, wild west, I think. And every time you see a statement from a company, a lot of other people start putting out the same kind of statements because that's what they have to go off of. Nothing over 100 years like NFL or NBA or stuff. It's just like in the now, or jumping on board, or the mob mentality, which I've never really agreed with. Again, there's both sides to it. Now, as a TO, as a player, as a fan, like, I think at the end, a lot of people in the business side of things remember the good people. Yeah. And you don't want to be known as a loose cannon, in my opinion. I used to be a loose cannon when I would make fun of everything I could just for 1,000 likes, and I was pretty good at getting likes. I still have the record in the FGC on Facebook prior to like 2016. My Facebook comment to like ratio is unheard of on Facebook. Like every time somebody comment like 2 likes, I would comment like not like a celebrity, but it's like Jebailey's talking to us. Oh my God, you know, and people notice that. And the whole Jebaited thing kind of changed my mentality of I'm grateful every day for the position I'm in. I love it when people come up to me and go, hey, I know you're the Jebaited guy because I've made an impact on them.
Yeah.
And I take advantage of that by paying it forward or being more positive. When you're a loose cannon, companies just go, if that guy's going to shit on that company, why would we ever want to work with them? Because they could do that any moment. So you got to kind of clean that stuff up. And again, I represent so many different companies. I've worked Pokemon events, and, we have rules like, hey, don't tweet any drama, before and after the event, none of that stuff, and you just naturally grow learning that it's not worth it. Long term, it's not worth it. It's going to hurt your brand. So you need to really kind of stay positive, be helpful to others. And I think another thing that a lot of more people can benefit from is quick communication. I respond to almost every email instantly because I did customer service for like almost 15 years with Disney World, Blockbuster Video. So I was always on top of things and responding. And that one response to somebody that goes, oh my God, they responded to me, like they will remember that forever.
Heck yeah.
So everything you do on social media is there forever. But back to the main question of drawing the line is, people are who they are on social media and in real life. Where you go with that is totally up to you, and nobody else is going to change you but yourself.
Yeah. Very true. It's I think that a lot of people don't realize the repercussions of their actions sometimes, and they like that instant gratification. And I think Twitter is a great place to go if you want to express something and just get attention, whether it's good or bad. Now
it sucks for everyone because post Elon, I ain't getting any likes, and I'm not paying for Twitter Blue yet. So it's changed. So now one piece of advice I have is diversify your reach. Right?
Yeah.
I haven't jumped into TikTok, but every time I do, I get like 100 likes from people that are connected through my Facebook or whatever. I'm like, dude, why aren't I doing more of this? But social media changes. Twitter's not going anywhere, but it's like, always be ready to promote where you can and have that outreach. I, throughout COVID, built my Discord channel up for CEO itself. And now everything I post goes there first, and people respond instantly. They are now connected with the event. And DreamHack did a good job. DreamHack has like 100,000 members through all their ESL tournaments, crossovers with that. And it's just an easy source of doing that. But one mistake a lot of us in the FGC made in the early days, and there was only one pioneer of this, was from the cross-counter people, Gutex and Mike Ross in the early days, was email marketing. That's still a thing. When I wake up, I check my emails first before my social media, right? And that's a way to promote. So I've built over, 10,000 subscribers on the CEO newsletter channel, and just staying connected. You go to anime conventions like Anime Expo, they send out an email every other day. I like to do once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, but staying connected that way with your fan base and everything is the way of the future. And just don't be on one social media platform. Try to be on as many you have time for. And if you don't have time to post on every single one, download Hootsuite or TweetDeck and have it do it all for you at the same time. So
yeah, I mean, that's something I struggle with, is just, because sometimes you have to personalize each thing for each social media. You got character limits. Some you only want to put the photo. So there's got to be a little bit of personalization for each time. But I think that Hootsuite and all that stuff is a great idea for people who struggle with content creation. I wanted to ask too, for CEO, I mean, I know you talked a little bit about including, maybe it was like card games or TCG type stuff. Is that like another direction you're seeing, your organization go, is to include more than just fighting games, card games? Is that like what you think is going to be on the horizon?
Oh, I know it is. I already have other organizers asking me, hey, how did it go? I'm like, yeah, I know what you're going to do now. So DreamHack did a very successful integration of Magic the Gathering.
I'm a huge Magic player, so that's amazing.
So I played Versus System. I touched Yu-Gi-Oh! I played early Pokemon. I never got into Magic. And the reason why is the fantasy world, there's characters I didn't relate with. When Versus System came out, I'm a huge Marvel fanatic.
There you go.
It was instant for me. And I play way too much Marvel Snap now. I'm like collector level 1900. Even Kenny's way above me, and I got him into the game, and he freaking won't stop playing that shit.
It's a great game. It's great.
It's incredible. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. But besides that, the early days, whatchamacallit? So I used to play card games, right? And I learned a lot from Upper Deck and the Pro Circuit for Versus system on a professional level. Their judging, their stage design. They had the Danger Room for one of their events in like 2004. I wrote some articles on TCG Player back in the day, and I loved the deck building aspect with different teams that I played with. And I'm still all Facebook friends with a lot of them. Brian Kibler, one of the first guys I met in the industry, and now it's fine. 15 years later, he goes, "Dude, your branding's on point. How do you like put your?" I'm like, "Why are you asking me this shit? You're a bigger name than So that was cool to have that kind of respect level and understanding. But card games, every event I go to that's FGC or CEO, there's people in the corner playing a card game or playing a board game, and I just know that's the direction to include that to get people to play fighting games. And what I wanted to do is, if I want to make easy money, 15 years ago I would have done card game tournaments, because what do you need? Tables, chairs, judges. Everyone brings everything else. CEO and Evo and us, we got to bring 500 PlayStations and monitors and make sure it's updated and all that, so easy money. So Magic community, if I ever go real broke, I'm coming for you guys. No, but it's like people would play it, so there's a lot of fighting game related card games. Xseed, the UFS, I'm forgetting the names right now. Paragons. So it all comes down to talking to people that want to help. Paragons, his name is Solis, Chris Solis, and his team. He helped me put together the entire TCG room, and Cool Stuff Inc., huge card game company. That's who I used to play with in Orlando all the time and buy my cards at and all that, like 15 years ago. Jim Bishop, one of their big guys, comes to CEO, and just I want to kind of do it organically. I don't like to throw things and see what sticks. I like to throw things I'm confident will start small and grow into something and blossom. And as soon as I started doing the card games, all these different companies were hitting me up. Hey, we want a booth. We want to sell your event. We love the CEO aesthetic. I remember there was a period in Magic pre-COVID. I was getting tagged in tweets like, I wish we had a Jebailey running Magic tournaments or something like that. I've seen that a lot. And so I like to run everything. I love sports games, card games, racing games. I've been reviewing a Logitech Pro wheel. It's an incredible wheel. And so I like to just dive into all these other communities I think work. And card games is a perfect fit at CEO tabletop. And we did it already in Daytona last year. I had 2 rooms, one for just a couple booths and then one for free play. And every time I drove by on my Segway, there was at least 30, 40 people just playing card games. And Chris got me custom CEO play mats that sold out instantly.
Amazing.
So it's a really big part, but I want to do the fighting game side of it first before I dive into the other games and stuff. And I've been very fortunate to have been work at Pokemon Worlds every year for a Pokken tournament, but also see the TCG side, the video game side, and the professional level. Pokemon's been a huge inspiration to me and how they run their events and the people that I've worked with. And so just so many different aspects that I've been fortunate to work other events to bring into CEO. And card games is it's such a fit, because I'm telling you, every other organizer starting to hit me up like, hey, like, what does it take? I'm like, dude, just space, space and reaching out to the right people that care. So it's gonna be even bigger this year. I'm actually in a big phone call with 3 different card game companies tomorrow and seeing what tournaments they can bring to the table that I don't have to deal with, and kind of grow from there. Because and we'll see what happens. Like I said, there's been a lot of fighting game card games, and I want everything to relate back to fighting games, right? And so that's why I go with that. If I wanted to make money, I would go create, and somebody's going to steal this idea I've had for probably 20 years, is at one point, I just want a con called Multi-Con, like Multiplayer Con, where it's every kind of 2-player, 4-player game under the sun in one roof. And it's just all about that, right? Like a Multi-Con or whatever. And so
tremendous venue for that.
I've been to Gen Con, IndieCon, all that stuff. So card games has a now a consistent home at CEO and CEO Taku, and it's just going to keep getting bigger.
All right, here's a fun question, because I know you're a Final Fantasy fan. So do you think that Tetramaster could ever make a resurgence back into the competitive scene?
There was a community app for it. It was a third-party app they created. That was Tetramaster. You're talking about the Final Fantasy 9 one, right?
Well, it started in 8, I think, and then,
9's the better one. There's an app for it already, so I did dive into it. I just think Marvel snapped. They need to print those cards, man.
Right? Well, maybe they will. I don't know.
I would love to see something like that, but I think Magic, you got to give it credit. Pokemon, you don't hear about Yu-Gi-Oh! As much, maybe just because I'm out of the scene, but I don't see as much as I used to.
Dude, in California, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is insane. I come from the East Coast, and I was a huge Magic player, but out here, like, I walk into shops and like, no, we just do Yu-Gi-Oh! I was like, oh, okay. Sounds good.
That's awesome. And so Like just there's so many different card games, right? And when I was hosting at CEO, like I was watching, like, what is that game? They would sit down, do it. Even at CEO Taco, these guys brought the automated dominoes table.
Oh my gosh!
Where it pops up, you push all the pieces in, it shuffles them, and then it pops them back up like a freaking like the Undertaker coming from under the ring or something. Like I was like, dude, and it went viral. Esteban posted a video about it, but just where were we going with that? Card games in general.
I was saying if Tetramaster could make a resurgence. I think Square's got to get into the card game market, and what a great foundation.
No, Square needs to focus on Final Fantasy Remake because I beat Crisis Core as soon as I could, and I teared up remembering how good of a game it was, but even better on a big screen and graphically upgraded and all that stuff. So I'm excited to see where the future holds for Final Fantasy. Obviously, 16 is going to be humongous. And you know what? Here's a funny story. Every single time Final Fantasy 14 has an update, and now 16, it's announced to be available the week of a CEO event or like the week before, and they did it again. 16 comes out the weekend of CEO, and I'm just like, shit, I want to play it, but I'm going to wait it out, and hopefully other people do too.
Oh, no. No way.
It's like, come on, Square. I thought you loved me, because we did do Dissidia once, and Square Enix was a huge help to me. So we'll see where that all goes, but yeah, I'm like, oh, why do you keep doing this to me?
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
So fighting game-wise, I mean, there was that huge thing that happened. We don't have to get into this particularly, but it sparks my question, the whole thing with Panda that happened. And I'm curious, what is the communication that you wish would exist between the companies of these games and the fighting game community and the people organizing the events? Like, what is not being communicated that you wish would, or what is something that should be happening that is not?
So as someone who, I'll throw this out there, has been paid from all parties involved and has worked on both sides, I was actually a part of the Panda Cup finale, helping put it together, was very sad to see the direction everything went. And it is communication. Things can always go sour real quick at any company when it comes from the top, right?
Yeah.
Like, look at every major company over the last 100 years. What ruins it? The person who runs it usually, and that's why I always have my friends keep me in check over the years. It's not ruin CEO, but communication-wise, there's just so many events, right? It's hard for a major company like Nintendo to communicate, get official licensing, work with all that. But everyone needs to just communicate with each other. The issue is when everyone has a piece of the small pie, working with other people, you're not gonna get a bigger piece, and it's almost like a competition that shouldn't exist because when you help each other, it only grows. Like kind of off the record, like I talk more closely to Evo now. Now we have new management in charge and all the developers to be a part of like all these events and grow the scene together, which is exciting. So I think just communication, the Smash community, everyone wants to be a Smash TO or FGC TO, but you got to kind of communicate. But it's really tough because the world's a big place. And you can't have one person running events in every city, right? That's why there's so many different cities and events. But I just want people to talk to each other. I luckily, I kept my mouth quiet when every organizer had to go on Twitter to get their likes and, either say something negative or positive about the other side. I'm just like, I'm just going to wait this out.
Yeah.
Because when everyone else blows themselves up, CEO's still going to exist. And, these companies are going to go, remember when Jebailey didn't say anything? Yeah, let's keep supporting him.
Yeah.
Anyways, but without diving too much into it, I think just communication. I try to talk to everybody. I network. I've had coworkers at DreamHack go like, "Why isn't Jebailey here?" He's like, he's probably talking to somebody, making sure they're having a good time or networking, or and that's just kind of what I do. And I'm afforded that with the trust I have with my staff to handle things. And the moment there's a fire to put out, I'm there before anybody else even thinks it. So. Going forward, communication. I mean, look, Smash has been around. It's going to continue to be around. The players are the biggest personalities in this fighting game community, in this industry.
Yeah.
I wish they would use it for positive and not go complain about every single thing on Twitter just to see, what are you getting out of that? You're not improving yourself. You're only getting other people to go, well, if he hates that, I hate that too. Stop. So I just think people need to think more clearly before they speak, think about the repercussions of it, and just talk to each other, man. Everything takes a phone call, or an email, So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. It's a shame it happened. A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people, left a company or didn't know what was going on, all because of just one, miscommunication between different parties and stuff. So
yeah.
I hope it rectifies itself. At this point, I don't care about sides. And a very important name to me, a big mentor in my early days, is Seth Killian, who now works for Epic Games, who worked on Street Fighter 4 with Capcom and all that. And I remember there was a time where I was telling him, like, hey, do I work with this company or that company? He told me 4 words that will always stay with me. Less sides, more awesome. Stop taking sides, focus on your own shit, and make it the best you possibly can. When you do that, your focus is going to be where it needs to be, and everyone is going to, that's a part of that, is going to not profit from it, but, get something good out of it. So every time I see 2 people arguing, I'm like, less side's more awesome, Alex, stay out of it, let them figure their shit out. And if they don't, oh, well, I'm still going to be around handling my stuff. So, yeah, that's, I need to start doing seminars. God dang it.
Gosh, yo, I'm going to adopt that. Less sides, more awesome. I'm going to adopt that.
Stop taking sides, just be more awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like a great philosophy to live by. I mean, we're already almost at an hour here. I'd love to have a little bit of fun with you real quick and just kind of do, I guess, a semi-rapid fire. It doesn't have to be rapid fire. It's just more kind of questions about the industry and the communities. Who are some up-and-coming players that you've seen that really excite you, or you're excited to see maybe have a potential to win, or you want to see an upset? Like, what is kind of your, in terms of players, either new and old, like what is the thing you're most excited about?
Man, that's a very hard question to ask. Early CEO 2014-15, I knew my favorite players, the Daigos of the world, the Magos, the Tokitos, Momochis. And then America stepped their shit up, the Punks of the world, Knuckle Dew, CJ Truth, one of my first proteges. And it just like, there's too many. So I honestly couldn't tell you because, again, I don't remember the players in these online events, right? We need offline to come back.
Yeah.
K7 Show Off. He had won Guilty Gear Strive at CO in 2021. Robert Paul, one of the greatest photographers in esports, took the photo of him being crowd surfed by the crowd after winning.
Yeah.
I like that guy for 2 reasons. Super positive, used his winning to promote and improve the scene. And third reason, he wears a CEO fanny pack that I had custom made everywhere I see him, and I would love it. No, what you call it? He just people like that. I like players that create content. Brian F. He'll tell you the story. Great Street Fighter player. He came to the first couple local events in Florida, and I destroyed him. He destroys me now in Street Fighter 5. But like the early days, he would get destroyed by me, and that's what inspired him to get better. Now his content creation. And so I think, more dues need to go to the people behind the scenes creating content, not just winning the tournaments.
Sure.
Because end of the day, you can be sponsored. You can have that fun ride. This is a hobby to me at the end of the day. I want to grow a business. I want to see everyone making money, but video games are about fun first and foremost. And if you treat it any other way, you're not at some point it's going to end. It's all going to come crashing down. Right. Yeah. So I'm excited to see where Street Fighter 6 goes and see if the Street Fighter 5 people carry over how good they are, right? Street Fighter 4 had, Justin Wongs and all that winning everything. Street Fighter 5, he didn't play it as much, and so I'm going to see a transfer of power and see how the Punks of the world and all those guys do, and including Knuckle Dew, who's probably going to come back to 6 because every generation of Street Fighter, the old players go, I hate this game, I'm going to stick to the old one. Or a whole new generation comes in. I think Street Fighter 6 is going to be that game again that brings everyone together, and it takes at least a year before people either give up on it or move on, and move on. So we'll kind of see. But to give you names right now, I couldn't because there's literally 30 different communities and games now.
More than fair.
Yeah, so it's a tough question to answer. Just support everyone. Just, go to Twitch, look up fighting game category or your favorite fighting game, and just support all those guys. Spend a few minutes to just say hi. I stream as consistent as I can, which is like maybe once every couple weeks. But even having 20 viewers, and that means the world to me, to see that people just care and want to kind of see what I'm playing and checking out. So supporting people that way is a really good way to kind of grow the scene. And yeah, just Street Fighter 6, man. I think CEO is going to be huge because we are the first major event for it, but Evo is going to bring everybody out to play. I think it's going to have 5,000 players easy. And if it doesn't, A, people are still home because of COVID related reasons, or B, online is just so damn good. Why go to events anymore? So, because at the end of the day, you go to events to learn, compete, have fun. That's CEO's slogan. But at the end, it's to network and have fun and play offline because there is no better feeling.
Yeah, no, really. I really hope that people continue to go in person because it is an experience unlike any other. I've gone to many events myself, and the networking, like you said, I mean, I remember one of the first times in Jersey I got to watch Mewtwo King play before, like, he was ever like a big thing, and I was like, oh, wow, I got to be there and, like, see him play, like, these early rounds and stuff, and it makes appreciating these things, 10 years, 15 years later so much more. What about, this was a question from Keith, what's a particular fighting game that you'd love to see either like a revival of, or a resurrection, or a remake, or a rebrand? What's something that existed that maybe isn't as popular now that could come back in a different way that you'd love to see kind of come back on the scene in a popular way?
So I will say Fightcade, look it up if you're interested in playing old school games online with people with amazing netcode. Fightcade, I was addicted to that thing when COVID started, and it was, now CVS2 runs well. I would love to see a CVS2 revival, but the thing is, old games need to stay where they, back in time. You can go back and play that same game, right? Yeah. Bringing it back, it's always going to be changed. It's not going to be the same experience or whatever. But Capcom vs. SNK2, I'd love a part 3. I think King of Fighters 15 did great. Tekken is coming back with 8.
Yep.
But one game that I personally love is Breaker's Revenge, and the collection's finally coming out. Neo Geo game, but it is hands down the greatest Street Fighter 2 clone ever made, in my opinion.
Wow.
It's just solid, it's fluid, it's easy. A lot of the characters rip off Street Fighter characters, but it's just a lot of fun. So I'd love to see something kind of bring that back. I know, was it Fatal Fury that got teased last year? One of the SNK games is coming back. I love seeing SNK, kind of come back, but I want to see those partnerships again.
Yeah.
We'd love to see a new Marvel game. Marvel's always going to be huge, but now that's different. Marvel 2 came at a time where nobody gave a crap about Marvel movies.
Yeah, that don't happen again like that.
Yeah, no, Disney
Marvel versus Disney. That's what it'll be.
I mean, Kingdom Hearts crossed over Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, and then Square. Anything's possible, I think, with partnerships. It's just bringing back old games is hard because of licensing and everything. Yeah. But I think CVS2 or Part 3 would be amazing. But right now, I like when there's not too many different fighting games, newer ones coming out. I would love to see a perfect world where it's like 5 a year, and then people get a chance to try them all out and then stick to the ones they love. But I will say I am very proud of CEOtaku, the anime-based event I created in 2015, and the growth of anime fighters, not just at CEO or CEOtaku, but the Midwest region, the EVO, Vortex Gallery, all that stuff. Just seeing all those lesser-known games back then, and to have Guilty Gear be #1 game for the last couple years, it's great because competition breeds better games, I think. And I think Capcom goes, shit, we're losing the market. We got to get our shit back together. And I think that's going to make for exciting stuff. And I'm most excited for Street Fighter 6 Champion Edition in 5 years because we know that's where it's going to go.
Heck yeah.
So every year an update. But it's cool knowing that the developers are more entwined than ever. A new Mortal Kombat's got to be coming at some point. That game's never going to die.
For sure.
So I can't wait to see what happens with that. But again, the growth of esports and fighting games and tournaments and accessibility online and, is a great thing. And Killer Instinct, I would love to see another Xbox remake, but have it go to PC out of the gate, or, God forbid Xbox going to PlayStation with it or something, I think would be great. Because the new Killer Instinct, I was fortunate to be a part of the team for a year with Iron Galaxy Studios, was a really good game. It's just being on Xbox only. Because literally, when's the last time you saw any of your friends playing a fighting game on Xbox?
Be a hard reach to tell you that one.
Yeah, so even though Xbox 360 is the best for Street Fighter 4. So, yeah.
Performance, yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Well, thank you for answering that. And honestly, Jebailey, we're at an hour here. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting about this. I'd love to give you a moment to plug anything that's coming up. Thank you for bringing up CEOtaku. I know you got registration opening soon for CEO. Where should people be looking for you? I know you said you're streaming. Any of those plugs you'd like to do, by all means.
Just at Jebailey on Twitter, discord.gg/CEOGaming. That is the Discord. I'm building out everything. I started posting that, hey guys, working on registration. Like, there's a lot of things that go into it. I build out the website myself with assets from 2 people. Staffing is handled by Tong Lee and Tampa Never Sleeps. Shout outs to Tampa Never Sleeps, who also works with me at DreamHack. So yeah, January 29th is what we're looking to launch CEO 2023 registration. Also this month, I'll be launching DreamHack San Diego. So if you're on the West Coast and you want a little bit of that CEO fighting game flair, look into DreamHack San Diego on April 7th to 9th. I'm in charge of fighting games there. And last time we were there, we were in Anaheim, which was exciting in 2020. So I'm glad to be back, almost 4 years later, bringing fighting games back to the West Coast. Yeah, just to be everywhere. Subscribe to my YouTube / CEOGaming channel. Be super helpful. Comment, all that. I'll always respond.
Amazing. Well, Jebailey, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun. Looking forward to CEO, everything coming up in the future, your streams, all that great stuff. Thank you for being one of the main figures in the fighting community that really is putting out positivity and content and hope for the future. It really means a lot, and I look forward to seeing all the stuff with Street Fighter, all fun things that exist beyond where we're at today. So thank you for coming on, and it's been a real pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you for having me, because now you got me in that mental state of shit. I have a bunch of events coming up I got to prepare for.
Amazing. I apologize, but good luck with the events that come.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Boy, was that explosive. My gosh, Jebailey. We joked about it. We didn't bring up the Jebaited thing. And I had no intention of doing so, because you can go look it up somewhere else on the internet. So you got Jebaited if you thought I was going to bring up Jebaited, which I just did. So maybe you weren't Jebaited. Anyway, what a fantastic just exploration of the world of the fighting game community. FGC has just been something I really wish I could have stayed in. I grew up, doing all this stuff, and I'll probably talk about this in the intro, but I record the outros first because it's fresh in my mind. It just was so fun to kind of see how alive and the passion and the fire that exists in the community still, and everything that he's doing with CEO and what everybody else is trying to do too. These games are just coming out, and what he was even talking about with Street Fighter 6, it just sounds so exciting. There's a part of me that wishes that I could stay doing that. I think it requires such dedication and training, and that experience of being there in person and learning and seeing what other people are doing. You can do these things online. It's just, it requires hours of training and dedication. I can't do that at where I am in my life, and I really enjoy just being a spectator and seeing these people compete at the craziest level. Whether it's, pre-recorded things that you can see them on YouTube if they're streaming it, or if you can see it in person. I'm wearing, this is not a fighting game necessarily, but I went to the Overwatch Grand Finals when I was living in New York. Wow, look at my hair. Whew, look like a chocobo. I went to the Overwatch Grand Finals, and I've got to be at some of these big Smash tournaments and seeing people in person, that feeling of electricity that you get. It's kind of like being at a concert. There's a reason why people go to see bands live, and seeing some of these crazy things happen is an experience you won't forget. And yeah, he's just seems like one of the great people doing this. He is kind of like the one of us mentality, and he's doing it from that perspective. So I really hope he continues to grow and expand, and to see CEO, not that it's not the same level of PAX or EVO or these things, but I hope to see it surpass it. I hope to see it, be, if not surpassing, at the same kind of prestige, which I think it already is. But you get what I'm saying here. Gosh, shut up, Paul. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. More fun guests to come. Make sure you're liking and subscribing and doing all those things. Check the playlist. If you haven't seen any of those old episodes, you can go through them there on YouTube. And following on Spotify really helps as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right, everybody. I need to go to bed. All right, take care. Bye.